train to the Plastic Underground. Approaching the station, please stand away from the platform edge. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Plastic Underground. This week I have a pretty cool little build for you guys. Been feeling pretty nostalgic lately. Will and I have been talking about a couple things we used to have as kids. So got me thinking that I don't have my Nintendo anymore, my NES. And I was thinking about like games and stuff. So I wanted to make a couple little cool things. So what I ended up doing is I made these NES cartridges out of just foam. So made this one, and I put some artwork on here for the Nerd Holes, our Dragon Ball rewatch show. Thought that'd be kind of fun. This came out so good, and I was so happy with it that I ended up making a second one. And so I made this because I've never had one of these because these were like pretty rare. So I made this gold Legend of Zelda NES cartridge. I didn't put any stickers on the back or anything, but it's pretty cool. Looks cool on the shelf. I'm really happy with these. It's funny to me that these are literally just foam. And so yeah, I have the templates for you guys. I even have the artwork that you can print out and stick on. And I also I painted this on myself, but I made a sticker, well, a pattern that you can print out and glue and stick on the back here. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. Hope you use my templates to make a couple of these cool things. The template also has the artwork, has left a couple spots where you can put your own artwork in there and get it sized correctly. So you can make your own art. You literally can make anything you want. You can make any game you want. So yeah. So I hope you like the video. Hope you make one of your own. And okay, you guys, so this is a really fun build here. This is a little quick build that you should be able to make a couple of these pretty quick, and just using a couple little basic materials. So this is my template. This is the first template I drew. I changed a couple things up a little bit, and I will talk about them when I get to them. So to start out, cutting out the base shape out of 5mm foam. You need 2 of those, front and back. Now I'm cutting the front pieces here. These are just the front detail pieces, the right and left side of the cartridge. And this is just some cheap, like almost 1mm foam. I thought this would be cool because I thought it would make it thin, and it did, but almost too thin. So I will show you a little bit later. I just use regular 2mm foam for this, and then I end up using the same type of thin stuff for the little grooves in the middle there, and I'll show you that later. So this is 2 pieces of 2mm to make 4mm. That'll be the middle. And then the front and back get sandwiched in there. So this is the back plate here. So this is some 2mm foam. This is all What the Foam. 2mm What the Foam. It's more rigid, and it sands good and it shapes good. And I really like using it to kind of make things a little bit more sturdy. So yeah, so that goes on the back there. And so now the
5mm pieces here, the front and back. They get the thumb guard thing cut out. This is kind of like where you would grab the cartridge out of the Nintendo. So what's important to remember is that those middle pieces do not get cut. Those middle pieces stay square. They don't get a notch out of them, just the front and back. So then I can go ahead and glue the front piece to this top part of the 2mm foam. Just flatten that out, make sure everything is glued up. Then I go ahead and glue the backing on the back piece here. Just this top detail piece gets glued on first. You also see I did not cut out the notches yet. I drew them on the bottoms there, just so that I can cut them all out at once and make them a good cut all the way through. So now that front piece and 2mm piece gets glued to the other 2mm piece to make that middle sandwich. And again, I left the edges long on this so that I can trim and cut everything all at the same time, just to make sure that all my cuts are good. Sometimes what happens is I cut everything out first and then try to glue everything together, and some pieces are a little bit smaller or bigger, and sometimes it kind of comes together janky. So then now that you can see how that's making up the full working. Now the middle is glued to the front, and now the front and middle get glued to that back piece. And I'm just trying to line this up and make sure that it is square the whole time I'm gluing it. And I will sand that a little bit later, but I just want to make sure when I'm gluing it I try to do the best I can. And these front detail pieces can get glued on to the front here. These I did cut the notches out on the bottom just because I wanted to be able to see where they go and where they need to go. This front piece here I kind of struggled with a little bit. Every time I would try to get it in shape, that thin part would kind of warp. So I would recommend not gluing that small piece on first. Kind of do the rest and then do that piece after. So then now the front is glued on. So then I can go through here and I'm marking the back where everything is beveled. And now I'm marking out these little ridge pieces here. Just going through and marking them on this sheet of foam that I will go through and cut later. I cut them out to be the thickness that I need. And you can see this piece here is bigger. This goes on the very bottom. It's a bigger rectangle. And then I just make sure that that fits in place. So then I can just go through and slice a bunch of these little guys up here. The trick I like is I use some tape and I stick all those to some tape, and then I put the glue on that way so that they're all stuck and they don't all stick to the table. Then you just pull them off the tape and stick them on. I'm also using a little piece that doesn't have glue on it so that I can put it in place and then line the next one up with it, just so I can get the same spacing all the way through. And then the top part of that thumb piece has 3 of those little ridges. Now I go through and I'm cutting the bottom piece off. So you can see how doing that all as one piece, you can get a pretty clean cut front and back without it like warping. I also go through on that bevel line and I just slice off that bevel so that I can sand it later and not have a bunch to sand. I can just kind of sand off whatever's left. Then I can go ahead and draw on where the screws go. And then not forgetting to put these little ridges on the back part of that thumb part there. Just like the front, it gets 3, one on the top, one on the bottom, one in the middle. And see, I'm using my blade to kind of put that in place and kind of push it around where it needs to be. And then there's the last one in the middle. So now the whole thing is pretty much constructed. Now I can go through and shape it. So just using a sanding drum just to shape that that bevel, and using this sanding drum to sand in these circles for where the screws will go. This is a trick that I do sometimes where I carve it and then I use a pair of pliers and just twist the material out of there. It's so recessed that you won't see it anyway. And now I take this little blade here and I'm trying to cut the opening on the bottom. I'm trying to do my same technique with the pliers, but since it's so thick it doesn't pull out how I thought it would. And this is kind of one of the first mistakes I did, is I decided just to kind of grind out the actual cartridge opening. And I got it to work, but I ended up kind of damaging it a little bit. And I had to go through and make a little bit of repairs with some of this thin foam. Just kind of glued it in there, kind of made a quick replacement and quick patch job. And by the time it was painted, you don't really notice it too bad. But in my newer templates, I kind of adjusted this so that you guys don't have to do this. I figured out a way to cut that notch out of each piece before it's glued, so I'll show you that. So the top part here gets cut. So that middle piece, that 4mm middle piece, gets cut all the way through. This top part doesn't get cut all the way through. So that bottom piece has got that hole cut out of it. And the bottom piece, just like the top piece, it's cut down not all the way through the 5mm foam. And I used 2mm on the front too. You see there, the red on the front, and that yellow is thinner foam, which gives you that thick and thin for like the ridges and stuff, and I think it looks a lot better. But yeah, so that's how I did the cartridge on my second model I made, and it ended up working out pretty good. I'll show you that at the end. And so now we can go through, and this is where the game art goes. So this gets notched, the top gets notched down a little bit. This is where like the game art sits on, but this is where the actual name of the game is read in reverse. So when the game is in the Nintendo, you can see the name of the game. Now these other pieces here get cut out. This is I believe this is the part that actually holds the two parts of the cartridge together. These are like little plastic clips that hold this in place. So I just kind of going through and I'm just kind of cutting these out. Not cutting these out all the way through, just cutting them out to the middle part. These are like little vent things on the side. These are just more details. I'm cutting these in with a knife. Cutting in this little box. And then also the center gets cut so that it looks like it's two pieces that are joined together. So I just use my blade and cut the straight line down the middle. Then I heat everything up with a heat gun to seal the foam and also to bring out those cuts so that you can see the seam lines. So now I found some of these little screws and they're a little bit too long, so just using this grinder, cutting these screws off, and then I can stick these in place. I kind of pre-cut the foam with my blade just to make a little hole, and then I just kind of push those into the hole. Now I use some Plasti Dip to seal this. Do a few coats of Plasti Dip. This is actually, I had gray Plasti Dip, so That worked out pretty good. So I'll just do it like 5-6 coats of plastic dip front and back. I paint the front first, then I flip it and paint the back. Actually, I think I ended up putting like a little nail in there to hold it up and paint it. So now these are some artwork I made. You print these out. I'll put the link in here for you guys. You can see I made a special Nerd Holes game just to kind of make it on brand and kind of make it more like personal for me. But I'll give you guys that link too if you want to make it. I personally think that this Nerd Hole game would be like super fun to play. Will and I kind of talked about it. We decided that it's a side-scrolling adventure of him and I on the Nimbus cloud, and we are flying through the air, avoiding things in a side-scrolling game. I think that would be super fun. So just using a little bit of this glue stick here, and then I can glue that into place. As you can see too, I also I cut out a Zelda and I cut out a Mario and Duck Hunt, which is a game that I actually grew up like playing all the time. As I had that 2-pack. It was pretty great. So these I made these for you guys to print out, but I didn't make them at the time for me, so I ended up just painting those ridges on the black, the darker gray where the stickers go, and I kind of give the front a light gray like dry brush just to show off like the highlights. Then I go through with a darker gray like wash and just kind of paint in the recess like ridges and some of this part here. Everything to me is a little bit more fun if it's like used and like dirty. Obviously, like if you had a cartridge that was like mint condition, you would keep it clean. But I think it's more fun like if you had this like you use it and you play it. So I painted the screws silver, although I think I've found out now that those screws are actually supposed to be black. So that's fun. But also I went through and hand painted all of the lettering on the back, and it took me a little bit. I started off being pretty happy with how it was looking, but the more I painted, the more crooked all the lettering got. And yeah, you can see what it is, you can tell what it is, you know what it is. But if you look carefully at it, it's, obviously it's not perfect. It's all done by hand, and yeah, it's not perfect, but I'm happy with it, and I think it was pretty fun to make this. And so yeah, that is it for the NES cartridge. I hope to do a couple other Nintendo things. I'm in this kind of like nostalgic phase. Will and I have talked about some nostalgia stuff on a couple of our Nerd Hole episodes lately. We talked about some McDonald's toys and Burger King toys and stuff that we had as kids, VHRs and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of am in this like nostalgia mood. So maybe I'll make some more Nintendo stuff. And yeah, so that'll do it. So like the video if you like it. Use my templates, please. They're all free. They're on my Facebook page. There's a link for them. And subscribe if you haven't. And if you have a Nintendo fan, show them this video, or even make them one of these cartridges, and then yeah, spread the word. All right, you guys, I will see you next week.